you. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And Danielle, will you kind of take the roll call, please?
Alderman Kelly.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day. Here. Alderman Craig.
Here.
Dennis.
Here.
John Howard. Here yet. And then Mira, I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher your name.
Kresovic?
Mira Kresovic.
Kresovic.
Okay. Mohammed Nauman is not here. Myself and Director of Administration and the Mayor are here. And we can do the pledge.
Thank you. Please join me. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I want to welcome our new member, and Mrs. Kresovic. I pronounced it right. I'd like you to share with us a little bit, whatever you like, some history, background, new fish, fresh fish for the Finance Committee. Always, we'll try not to be too hard on you, but it's a learning process.
Yes.
But welcome. And
Thank you.
if you want to share some thoughts, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Mira, and I moved here in 1971. I love Franklin. Lots of good memories growing up. I'm very interested to see how it's moving forward. So in the beginning, I plan on just listening mostly and learning.
What subject did you teach in school? Oh, say it louder. Math. Good numbers.
For what grade was that?
I've done 6th through postgrad.
You live in the city, west side, east side?
Started out of high school across the street.
Okay. Well, welcome. Welcome. Glad to have you. And please don't hesitate to ask questions or reach out if you say, hey, something doesn't make sense to me, or how does this work, or whatever. With that being said, let's move on with the agenda. First item is citizens' comment period. And I see that we got a big crowd tonight, so go ahead and close the citizens' comment period. Nobody here. We'll move on to item 3, which is approval of minutes from June 25, 2024. Should be in your packets, everybody. If you had a chance to look at them, if not, peruse them here, and I'll entertain a motion.
I move the minutes be approved.
Do you have a motion to approve? Do you have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion on the meeting minutes dated June 25, 2024? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we're going to turn it over to Danielle, I think, to tell us about some of the financial results for the second.
Yes, so I know that we didn't have an August meeting due to the finance team really cramming to get the audit done.
Line.
That's what I meant. Did I say August? Today's August.
Did it
The
get
July
done?
meeting.
Pretty much, yeah.
Did it get done?
Yeah, did the audit get done since
Yes.
you brought it up? Okay.
It was done, and I think submitted, the financial report was submitted like 4:37 on the 31st. So nothing
least
like
it
getting
got
down to
in.
the last minute. We discovered some challenges in the last month or so that we will now be working towards. I'll be bringing the audit back next month, as well as the auditors to come here and present that to us. And then also some internal challenges that we faced and how we anticipate those.
Okay, excellent.
So I did put together the April through June financial reports for you. I figured it was just easier to complete this memo using June's financial information.
Yep.
Didn't feel the need to go through each one separately. So I hope you guys read it, but I'll just briefly touch on each subject here. So cash and investments, we're sitting at about $58.5 million. Our April and June settlements have been completed, and our August settlement actually was just completed last week. So you'll see the property tax fund pretty much complete to zero next month. And then if you looked at the June cash and investment summary, you would have saw that I am not sure why, but it's something I need to look into, why ICM's investment percentage was a whole whopping 0.03. So I will look at that and get back to you guys, but that's also the investment fund that we anticipate switching over to ATM and
Question.
Yep.
How did we get an average rate of return on CDs of 8.33%? That sounds impossible.
I'm
I
not
thought
sure.
they were good.
Right. No, I again, I can look into that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made that comment on top of page 2 with
Right.
Yep.
unless that's some longer term stuff, but anything over the last couple of years
It's
would have been
been-
nothing. so.
Yeah.
And even
I
longer
circled.
term is an 8.33%.
Right.
Like a 5.
So it might be, I was gonna say that might have been a typo and should be 5, but I'll double check that.
Wishful thinking.
Right. But never getting a CD.
Right.
Landfill siting coming in as budgeted. We're currently annualized running a rate of 2.7, but we budgeted 2.55 million. So hopefully see a little bit extra landfill siting revenue by the end of the year. If you look at the chart, it does show it's roughly about the summer to fall months that it kind of spikes up anyways. So I guess I will just keep filling in the chart for the next few months and see how the summer leaves us. General fund, we have $22.1 million in revenue that we have received so far. Tax collections are nearly complete. Some of our quarterly and biannual shared revenue won't be in until you get the July financials, because our third quarter general transportation aids, our shared revenue comes in July, and some of the other credits that we get come in July as well. So fines have actually increased compared to the last couple of years. I believe that maybe due to a judge or just extra people doing naughty things in Franklin. Ambulance resources, they were starting to taper off when we upgraded to the billing service. However, I noted that we are still over 50% on collection. I anticipate having a report in September's meeting for the July financials. Both the fire department and the finance department have been having bi-weekly meetings with our ambulance billing service. Make sure that all of the everything's running smoothly, collections are running smoothly, receivables are running smoothly, all of that. So it has been part of a challenge to get everybody on the same page and get them caught up to a point that they're billing for services at a more rapid rates. I think that they're pretty behind right now, but I've asked Cheryl in finance to bring something forward for the finance meeting next month so that we can talk about some of those challenges that we're on track through the end of the year.
Question.
Yeah?
Why are we $555,000 short on taxes?
Is that the June period you're looking at?
Yeah.
Well, it says April. I'm assuming June.
No, the June, if you go back to page 51, John, you can see that variance is 10,000. It's almost right on the
Yeah, it's right on the money.
Oh, okay.
Skipping ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, we're $585,000 over budget for all of the revenue by June.
Speaking of taxes, I know once we go past the, A3 installment, then all past dues are
To the county, correct.
How was that, what was
The
the
transition.
level? I'm just giving where our taxpayers are, and that level of defaults or unpaids was up, down, comparatively.
I can bring that back next
Okay.
month. I know that we didn't have many people paying after the 31st, but I don't know what has been paid to the county since then. we've only had to do a couple refunds for people that have tried to pay their taxes, whether online or by check, and then we have to refund them and tell them to pay the county. Our year-to-date expenditures at 14.7 million are a little over $600,000 underspent. So that seems to be running pretty smoothly. I'd say our general fund is running pretty status quo. Debt service, all the debt service payments were made back in March, and then all the wires have already been set for Thursdays, August 29th, principal and interest payments. You'll see that the budget for principal and interest payments are a little bit lower than what will be expended to us not having the final amortization schedule for those 2 bonds that we took out at the end of November after the budget was already adopted. So those will be over budget a little bit, so we'll have to do a budget amendment, true those up. TIF districts, so all of the tax increment has been collected. That's typically all complete in January's settlement. TID 3 and TID 4 are completely closed and the distributions have been paid out. TID 5 collected its increment at 1.16 million and the debt service payments have been paid. There's still $24.5 million in outstanding debt, as well as the $3.5 million MRO. I don't anticipate us ever hitting that, but if we do, we still have that obligation out there. TID 6, they collected $292,000 in increment, paid their debt service, and then they have $8.5 million in outstanding debt. That development is still progressing at a slow rate. The mayor, Kelly, I'm not sure if you know of any further development going on right now. That subdivision that's going in, I think Safari Homes.
No, Safari Homes is
No.
over on College.
Okay, then I'm
30-ish. Rise is going in there, and they are working through the final inspection and permits and all of that.
The housing component of the 79 houses that are in that area, there's about 10 or 12 under construction now. And then on the west side, the Newman development on Ryan Road, they're buzzing. And they're just going, as far as net new construction goes, I mean, there's a number of houses getting built there. But I don't know of anything else.
I don't, yeah, outside of Rise, and I've not heard anything about Celico at all.
Yep. I
Yeah.
don't know if they've paid their obligation either.
TID 6 is
Verizon?
completely paid. Yep. All 3 developments have completely paid their minimum assessment guarantees.
Great.
So that is TID 6. TID 7, there's no more activity. It has $6.8 million, or it has a $6.8 million fund balance due to the repayment of the mortgage and the sale of Velo Village. It's got the $4.99 million in outstanding debt, and then we have the $14.9 MRO that we can on annually. So that's really the only project cost and out of that. TID 8, there's increasing development. I know we have future projects that will be going in that should hit our assessments here. Paid debt service. The transmission lines were moved. Hickory Street is complete. So they have $3.5 million in outstanding debt, and then just those ongoing development projects. TID 9 is new that you'll see in this one. We signed that new TID creation in October and signed the development agreements in October as well with Carmex Labs. We advanced $50,000 from the general fund to TID 9 to cover some of those TID creation costs. And then we completed that bond sale August 7th for the $1.88 million in outstanding debt to pay off some of the city's obligations for Karma's project. The American Rescue Plan, we have all of those funds obligated and projects are undergoing. There's the water tower project that's about 25% done. There's the utilities project on the DPW utility expansion project, and then Lover's Lane project. Solid waste, tippage is running even to budget. Capital outlay, again, sources are pretty even. They're running a little bit low, but we do have the, never mind, the health department ordered their new vehicle. City phone system is implemented. Elections department purchased their tabulators. IT purchased their document scanning system. Fire department purchased hoses. The engineering department purchased their large format plotter. Public Works purchased their new pickup trucks. Planning department continued to work on the UDO rewrite project. And then the police department has ordered their new vehicles. All of those which were in the 2020 budget. Equipment replacement fund, all the resources are as expected. The fire department sold their engine 113, and then DPW sold some vehicles and equipment, which comprise of the property sales resources. Fire department ordered their battalion chief and interim ambulance and fire engine. They also just ordered all of their radios and all of their lights and sirens for the battalion. And inspections ordered their replacement vehicle, and then highway department ordered their front end loader. The street improvement fund, we did allocate about $300,000 in property tax levy to the street improvement fund this year, based on the large increase in shared revenue that we received, and the street program is underway. Capital improvement fund, that mostly comes from park impact fees and interest income. That's the majority of the revenue in that fund this year. And then they just have ongoing projects, fiber optic project, highway projects, park improvements. We've got a few DOT projects, South 116th Street Trail, and the school traffic light. Development fund, that's mostly just tap fees and transfers out to the capital improvement fund or debt service fund to cover those obligations. There's been no activity in the utility development fund. Our self-insurance fund, we're roughly $1 million lower in claims than we were in 2023. 2023 was a really hard year for our employees and claims costs, but through June, we're at roughly $1 million lower. We do have our health insurance meeting tomorrow. Okay, so to go through some of our numbers through July, so I'll try to get you guys updated. I know the self-insurance fund and increase to employees is like on the forefront right now. So, and the retiree health fund, everything is stable in that fund and continue to see investment results. So unless you guys have any questions about the debt service schedule that I provided or any of the financials, we can move to.
There's one thing. You touched on that insurance bill that we received last year. That was in October, right?
I wouldn't say it was an insurance bill. What happens is our insurer or our USI team determines what increases look like to the employees based on a bunch of claims costs and everything. Due to such a high increase in claims of over $1 million, it was anticipated that we were going to need roughly an extra $750,000 to cover the premium. The premium.
So that premium
that
we got to cover, I'm saying as far as the timing went, I thought that we got that bomb dropped on us in October.
We did, and that's why we pushed this year to get all of that information by tomorrow so that that doesn't happen again.
Thank you. What time is that meeting tomorrow?
I want to say it starts at 10, but there's back-to-backs because we were also planning to meet with the strategic planning group. Yes. So we had we invited a number of people from staff to be part of a strategic planning group for our insurance. Basically, we went through a number of, I guess, fact-finding questions and scenarios to determine if our plan fit the needs of the insured or not, and where we could tweak things. And what we ultimately found out is that we just need to get the message out there that we do have a decent plan and get people more involved in what they have available and bringing in the resources on the front end and basically staying on top of your health, preventative health care.
Thank you.
Very
So that's
important.
at 10.
Communication to the employee base is a key part of that.
Yeah, we have really great insurance that it took just getting that message to some of people that, not that you don't have good insurance, it's that you don't understand the resources that we have to offer, so.
And it's great, these people put this stuff out on the internet, everything's there, go look it up. Well, sometimes that's not the effective way.
Right.
Get a sub sandwich, lunch or something, have the, people come in or whatever, have some 15 minutes, once they see it a little bit or, then know where to go, how to access, and get buy-in.
I think lunch and learns are very.
We just had one,
Right.
for the budget, right? We had a lunch and learn for department heads. But to that end, what we found out is we need to figure out, develop, and run with essentially a communication plan that doesn't inundate our employees, so that way they'll read it and they'll get like little snippets of important information that's applicable to them from the perspective of being a consumer of insurance. And I think that it'll be interesting to have that follow-up conversation tomorrow with the group, because I think we got the summary of what came out of all of those meetings that we had, and there's a flyer, and yeah, and we just haven't taken off with developing how we wanted to do that.
Right.
We have a lot of staff that use computers, but we also have a lot of staff that doesn't use computers. So how do you get that message out there, and trying to meet all of those different needs, or the best messaging is varied based upon the department.
John's got a question, go ahead.
Yep.
In your analysis, you referred to a significant refund to Seasons at Franklin Developer.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was that about?
There was a development, Seasons subdivision, I believe is what it was called, that turned in all of their inspection paperwork by June 1st of 2022. And in that, the previous building inspections director, yes, had granted them those 2022 impact fee rates when they paid their building permit. So then that inspector left, that director left, and that message was never passed on. So when they came and paid their fees in 2023, they were charged the 2023 impact fee rates, and brought it to our attention now a year and a half later, almost 2 years later, and we felt that it was necessary to abide by what our previous inspector had given them, and so we refunded them the difference.
Okay.
But it was just a large amount because it was like 53 developments.
Danielle, we're showing the $7.5 million really surplus through 6 months ended.
Yep.
Just for the benefit of the whole committee, that might sound like a huge number and a really good place to be in, and it is. But my note would be that it's only through 6 months.
Yeah.
A lot of things happen between August and the end of the year that will cause that number to get driven down. And that being said, I guess my question to Danielle and myself, as we sit here looking at numbers through 6 months, but yet we're here almost at the end of August, which is 8 months in, what are the biggest variables or attributes that you think that could have a real negative impact that you would see being at almost at the end of August, between now and the end of the year, or causes you concern?
I think it's been brought up even just through email last week that overtime in the fire and police departments they're already anticipating way over the budget. Even though we have some vacancies in some of the departments, personnel costs are going to be impacted, as well as the vehicle maintenance. I've seen a lot of building maintenance and vehicle maintenance being way over budget, just the aging infrastructure that we have, and then also the aging vehicle that we have now implemented 2 new incredible programs, the fleet program and the energy efficiency programs, but I don't know how well that will impact this budget. It'll most likely impact some savings in next year's budget, but we have had those issues this year so far.
We have a discussion, I think, later on our agenda about the physical plan, but I did note the comment about the fleet. Can you share with the group just briefly what that is, or not from?
Sure.
Is it a purchasing and maintenance program, or I guess?
Yes. So what it is the large fleet program that will be replacing over roughly a 5-year period. It'll be replacing about 63 to 65 vehicles within the city's fleet plan, mostly public works, fire, and all of our police vehicles. They have started with the police already and ordering some vehicles for them, and also the public works department. And so it will be more of a lease, and then they will also help maintain the vehicles, as well as our DPW department maintaining them as well.
And the focus on is, if me jumping in, is essentially we will be focused on maintaining the vehicles and then selling them after a short period of time to get money back from that resale. So we're not driving them into the ground, but we're actually getting something back in return. And we also have a true focus and plan on maintenance, which I think has been just in general, especially with the building expenses that we have. And this is what we are realizing, and why the Johnson Controls project is wonderful, that it'll help mitigate some of that risk for maintenance expenses. We have been spending a ridiculous amount on maintenance for systems that are just failing, that are past their life. For example, air conditioning maintenance over here at the fire department, the library. It's a cooling and heating station, and it has had issues with both cooling and heating. So just everything's kind of coming to the end of its life cycle.
Are we changing the philosophy on the police vehicles too?
That is to all be included in the.
Because the police vehicles always been pretty much the approach. We buy them, burn them up till they're done, and throw them away. Years later, you're buying a new one. I don't know the change. The high mileage.
There's just a shorter lease on them. There's no mileage requirement, and they're completely upfitted to whatever the police needs. But their vehicles will be on a more, 3 to 4 year lease versus our other vehicles that may be on an 8.
And then just so you know, we did a lot of meetings with Enterprise before we went into this agreement, and we also had, I believe, a number of people reaching out and checking the references. So they use it, Germantown Mayor.
For which?
Enterprise.
Sheboygan,
Yeah, they had a huge
Madison.
list
Oh,
of.
yeah.
Oak
Menominee
Tree.
Falls was the big one that
Yeah, that sold you.
that sold me right there, is Menominee Falls. That's
Yeah.
very proactive.
And Chief Learman checked in and spoke with them, and people were happy. The city attorney had reached out to maybe Menominee Falls city attorney, and nothing but positives.
So they have group buying power then, I'm assuming, as well. with
Yeah,
the
they have all the
manufacturers.
same, discounts, everything we get. Yeah, they can reach more people than just what the city has been able to do well.
With Enterprise.
Yes.
Good firm.
Family operation. That's what I learned
Yeah.
during all of this. Yeah. Taylor
Well, it's
family.
publicly held.
Yeah. I can also, I'm sorry.
You can go, and then I'll ask.
Okay. I was also going to say that what you can expect is a significant amount of money being thrown at IT, infrastructure, and security in the next coming months. And it's sort of like the maintenance thing, except not. It's almost like we should have been doing things that weren't prioritized until they became a necessary, just a need. So they became a real need. So we have had to go out and look for certain vendors and service agreements to make sure that the city's data is protected and we have what we need here. From a IT infrastructure, we are really behind. So we have a lot of catching up to do. And there's been some incidents that have been very concerning that really highlighted for us that we absolutely cannot push this off any longer.
Is the IT, I guess, committee, if that's the proper word?
Tech committee, they're meeting tomorrow.
I know, is it functioning? Is it working? Value or?
I believe that Director Metulski appreciates having the tech committee there. He covers a lot of ground with them, and they speak his language, and outside of Ryan and Nathan in his department, I think they're probably the only people that speak that language, at least to that degree.
There again, it seems like our neighboring municipalities are all challenged. I think their resources, expertise available for out there. You don't have it, maybe.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of challenges. You know, we have a department of 3 in IT, and I know just in speaking with him with all of the challenges that we've had in the last couple of weeks, even leading up to that, our IT director is just burned out. It's been a lot of round the clock working on things, and we just recently brought a 3rd person on it. The department is not staffed adequately through no fault of the directors. It's just how everything is kind of shaken out with budgets and how it's traditionally existed. And there has been not enough focus on the department's needs for a long time that we're trying to bring further and really shine a light on, because it's really critical to our operations.
Well, we're looking to be more efficient, I think, technically based all across, because the offset is reducing headcount. You see it everywhere. Those systems have to work. They have to be efficient. They have to be up and running. That's the USA business model now. They're almost, I don't want to say for granted, but in many ways they are. There's a lot has to go on behind the scenes. Sounds like the budget for 25 will be a process.
Yeah. We'll talk about it here in a few minutes.
That was an excellent segue, but we have a question over here.
I just have one question. So it relates to, and this is just a go forward, think about. So I'm used to looking at financials with an extra data point. And so the extra data point would be, you got actuals year to date, right? And what I'm used to is we actually forecast the rest of the year. So normally you got a starting point, you got a budget, all the months and everything like that. As that year's going, we're going and adjusting. So think about it as the department's adjusting. So if you know some costs are going up or whatever, that they're going to adjust for that. And then you get a total in here. So to the question of, hey, what are we worried about? We'd have those numbers and you can see real quick, hey, I got to be, right now we're kind of projecting, we got 700,000, we're going to be over here and we're going to be under here. But it gives you kind of that target to what the budget is for the year, because to your point, you could be way under early on. It looks like we're doing great, but it's all our big expenses are in the back half of the year and you don't see that right. So it was a way to kind of help with
So when you say that, is that something that you may be interested in seeing on a month-to-month basis, maybe after the June timeframe on those financials going forward? or, because I mean, if January, February, it's really hard
Yeah,
to project.
correct.
So is it like after, mid-year?
Yeah, you could do it like
'Cause I
mid
know-
or after the first quarter or whatever. Yeah, like January, when I've seen it, January is pretty much budget, right? And then as you get further in the year, the only time you're ever going to have anything is if you did budget and you locked it in, and then all of a sudden something happens between that and when we start the year or whatever, and you're like, oh, we got to adjust for that. Then we would adjust for it.
Yep.
But typically, there's pretty small.
Yeah, so when I do the budget and I have my big spreadsheet that I can basically combine all in one, we do have the projected numbers in there, which
Okay.
we work on around this time, and it will be in the mayor's recommended budget, but that's certainly something
Okay.
putting in these financials as well.
Some of that would be shown in the amended budget 24 as well. I mean, as
When
you're
something's
making
been
some of those
amended, yep.
changes. But it's an interesting cycle here. I mean, yeah, they were up against the firewall on June or July 31st to get out the 23 number, and now we're already talking about 25.
Right.
Yep.
So we're either 6 months behind or 6 months ahead all the time.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's, the IT director and I have had many conversations about how
Right.
the budget cycle probably needs to be more concise instead of 6 months.
All right, June numbers year to date. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Hearing none, I guess normally what we do is make a motion to refer these to the council. So if anybody do that or so,
I'll make a motion now.
we have a
for the
motion
council.
to refer the numbers as presented. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any other discussion on the year-to-date numbers through June of 2024? Refer these to the council. The only thing I would suggest to the motion makers is that Danielle look into that CD comma,
Yep.
so that
With
number
the-
gets corrected
the
before it
changes.
moves on if that's incorrect. Other than that, any other further discussion? Year-to-date numbers? Better to be where we are than the other side of that equation, I know that. All right, all in favor of referring the June numbers to council for
I'm
their
gonna do
review?
the whole, both April, May, and June since they're all
Yeah.
in here.
Exactly, the full packet. Referring that to council, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Moving on, I think the next item we have is, the tax exempt police program. Did you want to make some comments on that, Danielle?
Sure, I'll just high level, this was brought to the common council and approved already on August 20th. This would be for the Johnson Controls project. The common council has authorized the total project at, a little over $3 million. And in order to do that, we needed to come up with some financing solutions. We have taken the money that was allocated toward building improvements that was already in the 24 budget. We did take that and allocate that to this project, which was about $900,000, but we needed to finance the other $2 million. So we ran into the issue of not being able to include that in the GO bond that we took out back in June. The timing just didn't help. It wasn't on our side. So the next option was the tax exempt lease purchase or a contingent payment funding structure. I put the little comparison here for you that by doing this and choosing to go with Bank of America, if you looked at the proposal, they came in with an interest rate at 3.97%. The interest rate that was on the GO bond that we just took out a couple of months ago was 3.85%, so they're very competitive. Nice thing that we were able to achieve was no closing costs, so that did save us a little over $100,000 right there. So if you guys have any questions on that, like I said, I provided all of the proposals here for you so you can see them, but ultimately Common Council went with Bank of America, and we will be meeting with them later this week to go through the closing.
Sounds like a good solution.
This is a new term that I've
fairly new for all of us. Yeah, we had multiple meetings to walk through it to really determine what it was, how it would best suit the city, and then we also met with Ellers, the financial advisors, who told us that, yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt us at all to go with this option, so.
How does it get classified on the books? Is it an operating lease?
No.
It's a finance lease, so it gets included as debt.
Yep, and then our auditors are also working with me to learn how to do that because they have other municipalities that also are in the exact same program.
Okay.
Were there any energy credits available on this equipment?
Yeah, so we do have about, I wouldn't say credits, I'd say rebates, and it was like about a $200,000 rebate. I think it's in the.
It's in the
And this is kind of a 3-year running.
Third year.
What's that?
It's in the third year.
I don't see a page on here. Page number. No, but it's on the sample cash flow under Bank of America's proposal. So is this the early? Nope, the next page. Next to that one. Sorry. Yeah, so we'll get a energy savings rebates in year 1, and then in year 3 we qualify for it after construction's.
And this is primarily all HVAC equipment.
Solar panels,
panels and
internal
LED.
remodeling,
Yeah.
lighting. Yeah, so out of a $3 million project, we're looking at saving about $2.1 million, or having $2.1 million in savings over the 20 years.
And then it allows us to kind of reset the clock on all of those maintenance and needs that we have, and also allows us to bring everything up to a standard, higher standard.
Well, Johnson Controls has gotten it big time.
They actually forwarded a lot of our information to Milwaukee. Milwaukee's it's a big project. Well,
Yeah, and they had, when I first met with Jeff Ennis from Johnson Controls, he had brought in some information from the city of La Crosse, who started out with 1 phase, and I think it turned into 3 or 4 or something like that. Ended up doing all of their municipal buildings. They're a big supporter of it.
Well, you had energy costs that are going up and bigger factor. All right. Any other questions, comments on the purchase program for the Johnson project? I don't think we need any action there, so we'll move on, and I think this gets to fund and are ready for 2025 budget planning. So, Danielle, you want to walk us through your
document here. I don't know if Mayor, do you want to start off with any challenges that you've come up with so far, or just kind of general, and then we'll go over some of the ones.
Let's general and
Okay. So back in June, we started the budget process, and I mean, immediately we ran into some challenges, and just towards the end of the year, we're going to have some challenges coming in the 2025 budget based on projections from 2024 and year ending 2023. It originally started with directing some challenges from last year into this year, and then us going without an assessor for a little period of time. The assessors came and spoke at the last council meeting, and what I will say is they answered a ton of questions that I think will help the residents be a little bit more at ease. But with that came a lot of challenges they've experienced and are going to cause the budget to be a very difficult process. They're not having board of review until October 2nd, which delays our ability to get a good tax levy, tax rate number, get assessed values. This assessment out right now. I'm doing my best. A lot of them already. And based on their very preliminary estimated MAR report, which assessment. They have completed all of the TIDS assessments, which help me determining values, but with that comes the challenge of to balance a budget without knowing what the tax rates are. We just wanted to bring that forward and just say that with those challenges, this budget is going to be extremely painful, but we're going to get through it. So I just wrote down a couple of the challenges that we have here. I will say that challenge 1 and 4 kind of go together. It's our tax rate and the assessments, levy limits. Even though the city of Franklin has the lowest tax rate in Milwaukee County, including all 3 school districts, again, you do have many residents that are just concerned about what their tax rate is going to be, or say that Franklin has very high tax rates. So I did put in there that we do have the most developable land, though, so we have a lot of opportunity for growth.
However, with that comes the fact that we don't have a lot of infrastructure where we need infrastructure, and infrastructure costs a lot of money. Right? Just wanted to throw that in there about what, because I don't think people really make that connection. And so to entice businesses to come here and want to be part of our community, they need an incentive because they could go elsewhere and it's already, the infrastructure is there for them.
We're running into challenge with bid creation because developers want to come in, they need, which then affects our tax rate. Not having, freezing that.
And we're not, every municipality is doing this. Every municipality is rolling out the red carpet and throwing very enticing packages to these businesses. I mean, we just got Project Green committed to us, but they had other municipalities that were willing to go double, triple what we had offered, and we got them because they want to be here.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. And again, with the assessments, that brings forward the challenges of able to balance the budget. So I just noted that the mayor's recommended budget is going to be extremely preliminary. I hope we only have 4 meetings for the finance committee recommended changes, but I think we're going to have a lot of changes coming forward between September and November. Challenge number 2, obviously revenue and expenditures. The state imposes very strict limits on what we can raise our taxes by. Inflation has just hurt the city bad, and we've maintained a flat budget for the last 3 to 5 years. However, our departments are barely getting by with personnel and operating expense costs, and we're just not able to give them that increase that they are needing to maintain the high level of service that we have in the city. So got lucky with the increase in shared revenue. That increase only looks like it's going to be between about a 1.5% and 2% increase for shared revenue this year. So really, again, determining how we're going to be able to give department heads they need high level of service with the strict limits that we are able to budget by. And then number 3, I talked about the aging infrastructure and equipment. Yes, we entered into the agreement with Enterprise Fleet and also Johnson Controls to help us save some costs and collect on those savings that we're able to get through those projects. However, we just have many aging infrastructure and equipment that have not been easily and steady maintained. Equipment most importantly. We're barely able to give any department head an equipment revolving fund vehicle or piece of apparatus, the low amount of tax levy that we've revolving funds. So it's going to be a really big challenge. So I just wanted to touch on a few of those challenges that we've come across. Department heads have submitted their operating budgets, their capital budgets. I have gone through the capital improvement plan and spreadsheets. There's millions and millions of requests that are out there, and we have to really sift through amongst the 3 of us and determine what we can achieve this year, what borrowing power we have that will allow us to get some projects done. and like I said, still maintain a high level of service with what we're doubling.
And I think, another challenge that has come about since, when did this go? Yeah,
last
was
week?
it last week? So within, this short period of time is
We've
the
had the IT
IT issues. I mean, there's cybersecurity issues that are very concerning. I believe I'd have to double check, but we've had servers die on us. So, I mean, we're talking major pieces of equipment. We're talking significant part of how we do business. And so there's just, to some extent, there's no option. You just have to bite the bullet and buy the new server and get certain kinds of security in place, and that's
And the other challenge that wasn't on here, but it's been obviously concerning, is our personnel. Our personnel makes up 79% of our budget. In the last 2 months, have lost major components in the department. We've promoted up to the planning department, experiencing challenges of many retirements. I believe 6 to 8 retirements in the next years. So we're really struggling moving forward in those departments and still being able to achieve everything that we need to going forward.
right. And I mean, the other struggle is being comparable to other municipalities as well. There are municipalities that are able to give higher increases or just pay more from the beginning, and that's just the reality of what we're looking at. And then the other piece of it to play off of that, and something that we haven't done that I think is has been critical, and just I don't know if it's an oversight or has just not been done, but we have departments like DPW and sewer and water that have not added a position in decades. And yet we know we are adding more and more to their plate. So
The community is growing, and we're not growing in personnel in critical areas that are needed.
So to add to that, and I'll throw in a few things now to add to what we've been talking about. Staffing is a big deal, and staffing, looking at the people that we are, it's not about just recruitment, it's recruitment, retention, and what are we in comparison with, and trying to keep things flowing. And just like Danielle said, and it's pretty consistent though that staff make up about 80% of our budget annually. That's pretty much the norm in other communities. I mean, we're not different. That's just it. So, and of course that we're bound in trying to keep the levy at a reasonable limit. And we would have been flat last year if it wasn't for the $750,000. I call it a bill, call it an invoice, whatever you're going to semantically put it, but that changed things up. So how we want to move forward, obviously, is we have to keep police, fire, DPW fully staffed. The DPW challenge, I guess my thing, without going into the detail right now, would be some reorganization of areas that we may be able to save a position here or there, and then add that to the DPW side, because they are, every time we're building a new subdivision, all the extra roads, and we haven't had that. I mean, we're in a great community. I mean, people want to be here. They want to live here. They want to build business. And we have a great resource. We are a phenomenal asset. But how do we manage that without, going crazy with the tax part of it? But my goodness, that's to be competitive. I mean, right now we're negotiating with the police. We're starting that contract up. Last year with the budget, just to remind some of you, is that we were able to give every employee a 3% raise that they hadn't had in over a decade. Not cut services, that was big, and retain the employees that we had. That was a big deal. And we're, I don't know where we're at yet. It's way too early, but that late start on the assessor, that hurt us.
for any fault of the assessor, just so we're all clear.
Well, I was
It's not
gonna
a-
steal my thunder. So
Sorry, go ahead.
just to repeat what Kelly has said, not to the fault of the assessor. It was not their fault. We're had a lot of challenges with the previous one. I'm very confident, and I believe council's confident with the new assessor and how they came in, answered questions, identified challenges, and how they're going to overcome them. So that's a big deal. And I think with some of the late departures we've had, could be getting us back on track in some areas, which will bring, and these things will be brought to council more, because my view on it is the more things that we can identify and share with the world, so to speak, the better off we all are. I don't like to operate in this little thing and try to figure out how we're going to do things. I'd rather say, hey, here's our challenges, people. Here it is. We all own it, and this is how I believe we should fix it, and that's how we move forward. But that's like when we talk to Danielle and Kelly and I. That's why we want to try to get as much of these concerns out there on record, and so we're all trying to work on this stuff as soon as to get things out there. But boy, it's going to be a challenge. This budget cycle is going to be very very scary, because that infrastructure piece, there's been a lot of deferment for many years, and now we are faced with this challenge. And again, we've got a community. I mean, it's literally nonstop. The amount of people that want to come in here, build here, develop here. We've got so many great things coming on, and it's like, well, it's all wonderful, but then how do we maintain police, fire, DPW? Those are big things. Planning department is now where we want it. Planning department is now where, really?
Oh, is now where we want it? I thought you said not. Yes, it is. It's awesome. I love planning department.
Thank you. And now we're going to be working on the engineering side of it to bring that up to where we believe our confidence levels with the planning department, how well that's being run right now. And we get a lot of citizen feedback, a lot of citizen comment on good, bad, or different. We're getting it, but I think we're making a lot of strides. But boy, they're knocking on our door to do a lot of things. So people are coming here, so we're doing everything we can. But I just want to keep the council and these boards and commissions updated on challenges.
Well, it's interesting. We've already talked about the inflationary impact, and that's all gone and done. Those cows are out of the fence, never come back. Pricing, but your comment, Mayor, and this might be a little bit off subject, but I had a conversation with someone that knowledgeable about some development in the western part of our. You may have heard of the franchise or e-store company called Buckeyes. South
Buc-ee's.
Bucky's.
Yeah.
If you've seen the stores,
Yeah.
whatever. they are planning to enter Wisconsin, and as any new development would go, you would approach the city or municipality where you want to locate, right? And
I got a place for them.
what?
I can think of a couple places.
Well, once you hear what the request was, you may want to. Yeah, they wanted not only all the infrastructure put in, road, sewer, and water. They came to the municipality and said, "Oh, by the way, for us to come here, we want you to pay 50% of our building. That's the ticket. We want you to ante up for us to get into your community." So you think they ask for things now? I think it's just an indicator of where things are headed and where they want to go in the future.
Right. I mean, one of our competitors for a project that was looking to come here, first location in the United States, successful international company. One of our competitors was offering support staff-wise for X amount of time frame for X amount of employees. And for us, we were just like,
You think-
MATC can help you a
Right.
little bit.
You think back, John, or how many years ago has it been before? When did the TIF activity really, kind of come into vogue and come into reality? I mean, you think before that there wasn't there wasn't freebies handed out by the.
20 years.
All the time.
22 years in Northwestern Mutual when they were one of the first ones in Franklin, and then that was a big deal. And then right when it was
But
done.
it's been a lot more recent, I think, is what you're saying.
Well, that was one of the
Oh,
first
yeah,
ones to
it's-
kick off in the
it's-
city.
Yeah.
And then it just started this trend.
Right. And I'm just saying, I don't see that,
No, it's not changing.
their willingness to ask. Now, how much they receive, I mean, that's another thing, because that's obviously a government council decision to making when you say when is when enough. But, yeah, when I heard this, I just had to kind of chuckle and shake my head, and it's like, where does this go? You know, if they're not bashful to ask for that at this point, where does it go from next?
Yep.
We gonna
Well,
pay
I
for
guess-
all of your costs? You know, just open up your doors in our municipality? Is that what you want?
Well, they want 50%
Yes.
of the building costs,
They
and we
do.
get 50% of the revenues.
Right.
It brings that much of a. I
People
know
over
I've heard it. It's a big truck stop outfit, right?
Well, it's a huge, I mean, if you've traveled.
See,
so-
I've heard that.
Yeah.
See,
Like a Walmart gas station.
all over Dale likes it, so I guess we're
I
gonna.
have
Like
no
a
idea
trip
what
on
I
steroids.
No, yeah, I have no concept at all.
It's the
It's
big beaver.
They'll have 100 gas pumps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I mean, you drive in.
How many acres they would need?
Oh,
10, 15?
yeah, more, I mean, bigger than anything you ever seen. You drive in, you think you're at a freaking Packer game or something. I mean,
Yeah.
they need somebody out there directing traffic. It's,
And if that little mascot starts walking around in his little costume, then
Yeah.
yeah, watch out.
Yeah, but I mean, that is the reality. Every
Yeah.
time we have a developer meeting and they're asking, what can you give? It's on the council and on us to determine what we have to give and what
Right.
we can give and balance that with what they'll bring.
right, what the long-term benefit and impact is.
And I have continually been told by the HR manager that my predecessor had said many times, I have it easy right now. It's going to get very hard in the next coming years. And it is.
It didn't take us long to figure that one out.
But I'm very happy that the people that, all of you that are on this finance committee, this is a big deal. Because we got a lot of smarties on this board here that are going to be able to dive in and dig and figure a lot of these things out to bring it to council. And there's a lot of difficult decisions and a lot of difficult recommendations that are going to have to be made. And I'm hoping that we get in front of them and then we bring forth what we bring forth. I mean, but things are being vetted here that are going to be very important when they step into that room over there, that it's real clear. And I'm really, now when I look at boards and commissions, because we're also looking at, maybe possibly eliminating some or combining some, but this having 3 alders on it is so important. It's so important to have 3 electeds on this. Yeah, I'll leave it like that. Talk about this.
Well, we'll bring it up at each next meeting after.
Well, and I think, when you think about it in terms of, a really great example, my IT director had told me that his capital budget in past years was kind of wiped out and dropped to $12 grand or something like that. I mean, he can't function with that. So when you're deferring all of these things that you're supposed to be doing and you need to set money aside for and plan for, it has that snowball effect. And then now we're dealing with an avalanche kind of in terms of, at least from an IT perspective. And that's the other piece of it too, when you were talking about personnel, there's a lot of areas and things that we do from a process standpoint where we could streamline and create efficiencies. We don't even have the IT to do that. We don't have the programs that we would need.
Might have to consider
assist.
putting some of those big ticket items and getting them in on the revolving. Or, having I don't know, have some of that in, but just to make sure that they're not, that future planning or future funding. Is being-
We're not.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Because even though you might see it as, not see it as an orange truck driving down the street and be visible to everybody, it's probably more critical than
It
maybe,
is.
that piece of
Yeah, absolutely. It
itself,
is.
3 times a year and the big snowstorms, but a lot of other times it's parked forever, but it doesn't matter. I mean, costs have to be accounted for, and more importantly, needed.
Mhm.
Kelly, do you know how much of our IT infrastructure is in the cloud? Do you have any idea or?
I don't know that we have anything in the cloud
See,
right now.
That's where, I think
Our
we're,
phone system is
Our
now.
phone system is now, yes.
I mean, those
I don't
are
think
like
that's
the very
fully
minor, but,
released.
I mean, basically my background is IT.
Yep.
Mhm.
So where it is going is like, you don't actually go buying servers or anything anymore. It's become like a commodity. So you
Right.
go in the cloud, you need an extra server, pay the monthly fees, Amazon or Microsoft. You add a server, tomorrow it's there, and you don't pay any upfront cost. It's a pay-as-you-go basis, subscription model. Whatever you have in-house is what you can do. So whether that applies to every single thing. You don't need those upfront software costs, hardware costs, or anything like that. You just basically expense out based on your actual usage. And it's
Right.
much, much lower than
You may find
How-
it helpful to attend one of the technology.
I would be more than happy to.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
meeting tomorrow at 6.
I will
Here.
definitely come. Sure, I can definitely join.
But what I wanted to say though is I get what you are saying, but then on the flip side of that, that falls into operational budget, and operations is really tight. So, that monthly.
It would fall into operational after it's
Yeah, that's
after
true.
it's put
too.
in anyways, but it,
I mean, see where, especially on the capital side, if you are, then even on the operations, there are a lot of things that are happening. I mean, the models, the iPads, the ISAS,
Oh, yeah.
everything is like, software as a service, everything.
Yeah.
It's
These.
come to a point where, I've been in Johnson Controls before, and like every time we used to have, sit there for hours and come up with budgets for these big servers and all, and by the time I left, we hardly had anything, and anyone would come and say, hey, I need this software tomorrow, and there you go, you have it installed and ready. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that as easy as I'm saying, but
Right, but it's
all
not as,
moving towards
it's not
there, so-
impossible, right?
Exactly. So in that way, the advantage is not only you're not spending everything up front, but also you're staying up to date on the technologies. Because if you're going in the cloud, it's the latest and the greatest.
Right.
So where some of your responsibilities, someone else is handling off.
Director Metelsky, love.
Sure.
He really,
I'd be more
because
than
I mean,
happy to.
that absolutely is the support that he needs, and
Absolutely.
where we should be going. In fact, I had asked to have it added into the budget to bring tablets to council and potentially something for committee members, depending, I don't know, but we're looking at council right now because 300-page packets printed up every 2 weeks is just the
Absolutely,
most
yeah.
absurd thing I've ever heard.
Yes,
You're
please.
right. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
But how will I know my pink papers if I don't have pink papers in front of me?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
They'll be pink on the screen.
One of the points to your point regarding that is the school board, they all have the tablets. And to go back to when we talked about a little bit about the budget challenges with the levy, you've got 3 school boards or 3 school districts that are all having these big referendums. So you're already going to have this heightened angst and whatever with depending where you live in our city, and then you're going to have our budget. I mean, this is a lot of people. They hammer their fists. They hear all the time, and I'm sure we all do about the Franklin taxes. But you got 5 and sometimes 6 different taxing authorities that make such an impact on the tax bill. And last year we had a 1.1% increase, and we were 25% of your total tax bill. I mean, so it's like you're we can't win. I mean, we
Right.
have, you know, and now I'm going to throw a really conundrum out there like I'm Willy Wonka, but you've got 25% of a tax bill, and of that 25%, you know, 80% is staff, so now you have only 20% of that usable income. So, I mean, it's tough. And the street improvement fund, I mean, we're looking at a 100-year term. That's one of the scariest things is how are we going to fix our streets moving forward? And, you know, what's the answer? And, you know, we don't want to raise the taxes. We don't want to have a separate referendum for operating budgets. So what are we going to do? Because it's not realistic to say we put a subdivision in today next to John K. Howard, and then we put a nice new road in, and then, we'll see in 100 years. Well, that's not realistic, but that's the term.
Right.
Right now, that's the DPW site term.
Well, in parks, I mean, we have buildings that are failing that we're renting out, pavilions, and
How are we charging for pavilion rentals and we give a terrible substandard product?
and we don't have money coming in to support that, like, at the rate that we need. I mean, you know, park impact fees go to new developments, new park-related developments,
But we have to
which adds to
we
our
have to be,
maintenance.
we have to realize that we have one awfully lucrative landfill revenue source that
Yeah.
many municipalities do not.
Thank goodness.
Exactly.
But it's a
So
challenge.
if
Now,
we're
what are we
sitting
gonna
here
do?
having this discussion with that, you know,
Imagine that, 2.2 million, right?
right, just
2.7.
take that out of the equation.
2.7?
So, and again, that won't last forever, but I mean, it's got a pretty long life. But I mean, I think it goes even further to the point that you have to be so prudent in the way we invest, spend, and grow up the infrastructure and services within the community. Yeah, you're exactly right. Whether it's roads, parks, schools, that they're fighting with it now, it puts demand on everybody, right?
But there's, I mean, there are a lot of very, I don't want to send everybody off in this like depressed mood. You know, there's a lot of wonderful things that are on the horizon for this city and big development that we're really lucky to have come here and want to be here and be part of our community.
Well, and John, you mentioned about the committee. I mean, and I'm glad you're kind of maybe looking at the committee structure. And I've said for a number of times, if it's to the point where the council thinks this committee isn't beneficial, I mean,
Yeah. We
Right?
got other things to do.
John and I said we got other places to go, things to do.
It's extremely beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of, to be perfectly honest, we were kind of thinking of combining personnel and finance, and maybe we,
Don't scare them.
I know, right? But to accomplish more, and also, you know, this happened with the Plan Commission recently. I think we need to really be realistic about making a decision, yes or no, versus tabling, because, you know, this is it's a time commitment for everybody, and
Sure.
some of these are hours and hours on top of a full day of work, and that's a lot to ask of any employee. And then you have the volunteers too that are coming in here, and the elected officials that are essentially volunteers, and those are big asks. And a lot of these committees, first of all, I think 4 are statutorily required, and the rest, I mean, I don't know necessarily the real value that they bring. They're really draining. We've got one of the reports that comes to mind is planning's year-end report. They had, in 2023, they staffed, so basically they put the agenda, they met to talk about the agenda, they put the packet together, they staffed it, and they did the minutes for 75 meetings. And we had 2.5 full-time people doing that. I mean, it was, well, I guess maybe three full-time people, and 2 of them were hourly.
Well, I think you always have to continue to look at your operation and what makes sense. I mean, John, you know, we all know it, but he mentioned again tonight. You do it. What's the first thing you do when you start looking at the budget? Well, what's the personnel cost going to be? Because that's 80% of the nut, right? So, are they joined? I mean, Yeah. I mean, we don't get too far with it before, well, what's the contracted, changes going to be? What's the new terms of the deal? I mean, especially in this line of business, because you're so heavily concentrated on employment costs.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes whether it's insurance, salary, being competitive, benefits, changing the insurance, how do you, whatever.
Pension.
Yep. Exactly. All rolls together. Do you want to talk about the this page?
Yes, please. So there was no action on the changes or challenges. The last one we'll take some action on. I just wanted to put out there the calendar for the Finance Committee review of the mayor's recommended budget. It is set to be going to council on September 17th. I know in years past we've done 3 or 4 finance committee meetings to review all of the department heads' requests. They come in, they present their budget, what their asks are for, and if they see any changes that they may want to recommend, finance committee goes over them, and then we take those recommended changes and bring them to council for the new members on this. That being said, I wanted to throw out there what some of the optional dates were. I hope everybody had a chance to look at this, maybe look at their calendars. They have in the past started at 4 o'clock because they do run a few hours. I'm open to anything if everybody else is open to something, or if someone wants to speak on maybe what days don't work for them. Otherwise, I was just thinking that 24th, 26th, 30th, and 2nd. But again, I'm open to anything as long as you've got a quorum, I think.
Yeah, personally, I can just say that I think the start time, depending on the schedules of the council members and the committee members as well, starting at 4 or 5 o'clock is much more beneficial. These things starting at 7, 8, who knows when. Had it divided up, so I think past sessions have been reasonable chunks. Again, that's I don't know what everybody's schedule is.
I'm an absolute cannot for the annual meeting for the week.
And I would say I'm good with starting earlier. I would just say 4:30. I got a lot of stuff that's up at 4, so over. But I'm all
Is any
out,
day
so.
okay?
Yeah, I think I can make any of the days work.
The days are fine so long as we lock it in now, because then I can just work my schedule around that. So.
Okay, so would a 5 o'clock start time be better for everybody then?
I was thinking 5.
5 o'clock would be better. And I typically break it up so that I think you can see here the major components of this public safety and public works. I put them on 2 separate nights so that I have it pretty much evenly distributed, like you said, Dennis.
The only thing I will mention to you, Danielle, is that right now I have scheduled that date. I think 4th out of 4.
You don't want to zoom in?
$6 million man stuff?
Yeah.
I wish.
Okay, well, I'm fine with the 24th and 6th, and again, we can always do, the 7th and 9th if that works better.
And again, that there is a possibility that might change, but right now that's. Anybody else comments about that schedule or those dates? Usually it's late
21st.
September and early October.
24th, 26th, 7th, and the 9th at 5 o'clock.
I can't do the 7th.
We can fill you in.
Okay.
The
But the
one,
24th.
the The one thing I would like to mention to Myra and our other citizen members, if you can make the 17th to hear the presentation, I think that is extremely beneficial because it kind of gives you a 10,000 foot overview, and then depending how far they get into it. But it's if you just jump into this first time and you've never seen it or whatever, you can get kind of gaga right away.
They're
But-
still on YouTube, right?
Correct.
Yeah, but I mean, just to kind of hear it and get first exposure to it and so forth, I think it just helps, give everyone a basis for starting the discussion. This is the way I would say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, may not be your top of your priority list on things to do on, September 17th.
Now you're adding all this pressure. Performance.
I always look at it.
Oh, yeah. I haven't gotten to that.
Okay, so if we want a motion to schedule those meetings on September 24th, 26th, October 7th, and October 9th, starting at 5 p.m.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion
I'll second.
and a second in terms of setting what I'll call the budget review process. Further discussions, and again, this stuff will evolve and change but I think it gives us a good place to kind of start with, and we can go from there as it rises. Anything else, anyone? Otherwise, all those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries and will be forwarded to the council. Half of you are here already. That's a great start. The other thing, and I'm sure John has mentioned to you, I think it's really critical for the three of you to be able to get to the level of detail because of what we talked about, discussed, and shared at those meetings that the other three don't have the benefit of. In some respect, I think it puts more pressure on you to educate them, inform them, do whatever in terms of the level of knowledge that you three will have that they necessarily won't have if they don't take the initiative to dig into it. The line item that you'll see, have oversight. Just my observation.
That's right.
All right, anything else for the Finance Committee in August of 2024? John?
Over your adjourn.
John wants to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second? Any further discussion? Nobody disagreeing? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.